Operation Dhritarashtra and the fallout. One of the key points made by Salman Khurshid in his press conference today were the pictures of JB Singh which he supplied at a donation camp organized by the Zakir Hussain Trust. But what Mr. Khurshid does not say is that the matter under consideration is for the period 2009-2010, whereas the pictures that he submitted are actually of the year 2010. And I'm going to take this up now with Nalin Kohli of the BJP, Shazia Ilmi and Sanjay Jha. But I first want to go to my colleague Deepak Sharma, who was at that press conference, Deepak. And most people who are seeing this broadcast would want to know your response on the pictures that were put out by Salman Khurshid, because that is key to his defense.
You know, Rahul, Salman Saab is with JB Singh. Salman Saab is a UP leader of the Congress, and JB Singh is the CDO, second senior most officer of the main party. They could be on a function. They could be on a dais. The core question is that the checklist, and the checklist relates to the release of fund from the Union Ministry. Now, on that checklist, JB Singh has not signed, and a fake affidavit in support of their argument was given by Ms. Lewis to us, saying that JB Singh has given an affidavit. He has signed the checklist. He was there in the camp. When we spoke to the JB Singh, he said, I have not given any affidavit. I have not signed.
Let's in fact listen to JB Singh while he says that. Here is this very crucial comment, because that's the affidavit that the Zakir Hussain Trust supplied us. And we went back to JB Singh to ask him what he had to say. Listen to what he says.
जो आपने शपथ पत्र यहाँ दिखाया है अभी मेल पे, तो इसमें तो सिग्नेचर किसी और की है, मेरी सिग्नेचर नहीं है। और सीडीओ या जिलाधिकारी एफिडेविट क्यों देंगे? मान लीजिए कोई वितरण हुआ तो लाभार्थियों की सूची होगी, अपने विभाग जो विकलांग कल्याण विभाग उसे सत्यापन कराएंगे, तो शपथ पत्र देने का कौन सा औचित्य है?
So he says, why would I possibly give an affidavit? I don't need to give an affidavit, and that's a key question, Sanjay Jha, which Mr. Khurshid in all his bluster does not answer. He made it very personal. He targeted Arvind Kejriwal, he targeted Deepak, but the core facts, the fake affidavit, the letters, the signs which were forged, none of them have been answered, Sanjay.
Rahul, I think Mr. Salman Khurshid today put up a very spirited and a very passionate defense of the fact that all the accusations that have been leveled against him, that one has been hearing about, stand fairly and, in my opinion, significantly contradicted. I'll give you one simple example. Sure. Let's not miss the woods for the trees here. He's got the utilization certificate that says that all the equipment that was purchased with the funds allocated has been, according to all the documents that have been proven, have been spent accordingly. Point number two, it's not just about the photographs of a couple of instances that we're talking about. He says that there is enough documentary evidence to say that the entire coverage of the districts, in fact, exceeds the 17 districts that people have said they were not covered. The fundamental point of today's press conference, Rahul, was the fact that people said that 71 lakhs of rupees was not spent because there was no evidence to prove that there was any effort done to distribute it to the physically disabled and the needy. And that has been completely, and I would say very confidently contradicted. Now, as far as the photograph, etc. is concerned, that you can have one or sporadic examples that Mr. Khurshid, I'm sure, will have an answer for. But the bigger issue is that end of day, these are all audited accounts. And last but not the least, Mr. Khurshid was very categorical that in the case of an affidavit or any letter that somebody says is not authentic or is forged, well, he says, listen, I'm a recipient of that document. I cannot comment on it. Let it be investigated by the appropriate state government authority of Uttar Pradesh and let that take its own course. Now, you can't have a more, in my opinion, an explicit statement being made by the law minister. And as he rightly says, let the matter then be decided as it should be in an extremely wonderful democracy like ours by a very impartial court. And I would like to take on Arvind Kejriwal's statement, Rahul, because he keeps ridiculing in a very cynical fashion the entire democracy of India. He says Salman Khurshid, if he's a law minister, will influence it. Now hang on. What if Salman Khurshid wasn't the law minister and Mr. Kapil Sibal or Manish Tiwari was a law minister? He would still find a fault with that. Even if there was a law minister belonging to some other party in the coalition, you can still say that Salman Khurshid can influence that. So there's no end to an irrational
Deepak wants to respond to what you're saying before I bring in my other guest.
That I want to bring out in today's discussion.
Sanjay, sorry to disturb you, interrupt you. My only thing is that you saying my only argument with you is that you said that affidavit, Mr. Khurshid has said that affidavit has been sent to the UP government, or he has not received the affidavit. My question is that for whose support, for whose benefit this affidavit was signed? It was not for UP government. UP government has given a inquiry, and the inquiry says that there has been a fraud. There is a forgery. Whose support? For whose support this affidavit had been made or drafted or forged? For whose support?
That's a very important question.
For whose support?
And I want to bring Shazia in. Shazia, because there are lots of broad strokes, there's a lot of bluster. But when you get down to, even Sanjay says, I want to make the big points. I don't want to get into the small points. It's the small points where the forgery lies. It's the small points where the deceit lies. That's where the cheating lies. That no one wants to speak about, Shazia.
Absolutely. There's so much of bluster, but there's nothing substantive or there's nothing with substance in what he said. He said three things. I mean, he just discussed the technical nitty-gritties, and he also discussed the clever way, the sophistry that he used in kind of making it appear that he has all the evidence when he had none whatsoever, and he didn't answer any of the questions put out by India Against Corruption and your channel. He said something like that we will not respond to the questions by people from the street. Now, he can go for votes to people on the street. It's exactly those people he goes to. Then he said something which I took umbrage to, which was they are rented Viklangs. Look at the language, look at the vitriol, look at the absolutely vindictive way in which he's talking. It's absolutely unbecoming. And third and most importantly, he said something strange today, and I don't understand what is the correlation between the Rupert Murdoch trial and this publication, India Today Group. Because in that case, if you look at it, there were actually allegations against Rebecca Brooks, who was the editor of News of the World. Whereas in this case, there are no charges against Arun Puri or a particular group. There are charges, in fact, against his NGO. So I don't understand what he was trying to do. His back is clearly to the wall. He stands exposed. He doesn't know what to do. He speaks in the most arrogant of ways. He's trying to cover up desperately. And none of the questions, he could not answer concretely to any of those. The question is, why were the signatures forged? Why was the letter used with the first signature? So why did he use forged documents and use forged signatures to get funds for the NGO, which his wife runs?
Mr. Sanjay, you have been, arguing very well as far as the press conference of Mr. Salman Saab is going on. Two questions again. There is a letter of March 24, 2011, signed by Special Secretary, UP Government. He recommends 68 lakhs to Dr. Zakir Hussain Trust, sends this letter to the government of UP, sends the copy of the letter to Miss Louis Khurshid. Okay? This letter turns out to be fake, forged. Number one. Number two, there is an affidavit. The affidavit says of Mr. J.B. Singh that the signatures are not forged. He has signed the checklist. Okay? Now, these two documents which are forged, who is the beneficiary of this document? Who is the beneficiary? Please answer. Who is the beneficiary of this document? If these two documents are the disabled people, are the handicapped people, are the government officers?
Let Sanjay respond.
Please respond on this. Who are the beneficiaries of these two letters who have been forged?
Deepak, let me respond to you very quickly on that.
Please.
Number one, let me answer the second part first. The actual beneficiaries of all the funds that have been spent by the Zakir Hussain Trust are the people from the physically handicapped community who got access to the instruments that were handed out, whether it was tricycles or hearing aids. Now, the first part, now you're alluding by your statement that there was a misuse or misappropriation of these funds by the trust, which there is no evidence of at this point of time. Now, let me answer the third part. The third part is that I heard Mr. Khurshid today speaking to another channel on the same question. Now, he said, listen, it's very, very much possible that you are assuming that person X has signed the affidavit, and in fact it's person second who probably may have signed it. Now if you're going to assume that person A has signed it, when in fact it's person B, it'll appear to be
Sanjay ji, no assumptions and presumptions, please.
Just the
No,
issue.
please,
And
Sanjay ji, don't take me for a ride. Sanjay ji, please don't take me for a ride.
Let the investigation.
Mr. Sanjay, please don't take me for a ride. I'm saying who are the beneficiaries of two forged documents?
No, nobody.
Say yes or no. Please don't take me for a ride. I have investigated this story for 1 month. I can answer each and every word. I'm saying who are the beneficiaries of two documents which turn out to be forged.
You cannot sit on judgment and
No, I'm not giving any judgment. I'm saying, I'm giving you two straight questions. Two straight questions. And you are saying assumptions and presumptions. I'm saying who are the beneficiaries? Are the handicapped people of beneficiaries? Two documents, two forged documents, one affidavit and one the letter on which the grant is being released.
I said that at the very beginning.
And both the officers are on record. Both the officers are on record.
Today, Deepak, there is an audited balance. Well, let me tell you, that is the point that Mr. Khurshid made today. Number one, he talked about a reverse sting operation that I guess we will see something about it over the coming days. The second part, the very critical part, was the fact that end of day, these are audited balance sheets. He says we ourselves have asked for an inquiry.
No, when he asked for an inquiry, it was only after we approached him. I want to tell inquiry.
In fact, this is now in the public domain.
Salman Khurshid and Louis Khurshid approached the Uttar Pradesh government only after they were approached by us. When we informed them about our investigation, they wrote about it only then. Before that, they hadn't written. This matter has been going on from 2010. Do you think, Nalin, that Mr. Khurshid has been able to adequately contradict the aspects laid out by Operation Dhritarashtra?
Rahul, I think we need to look at the entire episode in some perspective, and we need to look at it a little dispassionately. If it was a matter of only allegations and counter-allegations without support of any kind of documentary evidence, one may have taken a little different approach. But this involves first the Law Minister of India, the largest democracy in the world. That's one. Two, it involves a sensitive issue involving basically facilities or rights or assistance to physically challenged people, on which it's very unfortunate that the entire debate or entire discussion is not looking at that aspect. We are unfortunately dealing with another aspect of it. That's the second part of it. And the third is that essentially your channel is raising the point repeatedly about two documents which is talking about forgery. Now that's something very serious. And I think when it comes to the institution of democracy, it comes to the government, when it comes to the larger question, these are things that just cannot be wished away. They shouldn't be put aside. So I think the stand remains that there has to be a credible, independent inquiry to get to the bottom of it. Because at the end of the day, we are also threatening institutions of democracy. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to the UPA government, the track record on anything related to corruption has been far from inspiring. So therefore, it becomes even more difficult for a second if we even say that maybe there is an element of doubt. The track record of the government per se has been very poor on matters of investigation related to corruption. So therefore, it makes it even more difficult. But these two critical inputs related to A, the affidavit being forged, and 2, a letter being forged, these are serious allegations. And when it involves the law minister, it becomes a very, very serious issue. So we may debate, counter-debate. I think at the end of the day, the nation
But it's very convenient, Sanjay,
and I think
the manner in which Mr. Khurshid says he can't answer that. He accepts that there is a problem with the affidavits, the signatures could be forged, but he says he doesn't know who did it, and that really throws up very serious questions. Because one of the other key things that Union Law Minister Salman Khurshid said in his defense was that he produced a person by the name of Range Mistry. Range Mistry is a differently abled person who was shown in Operation Dhritarashtra as someone who said on record, on open camera, that he did not receive any hearing aid from the Zakir Hussain Trust. Let's listen first to what Range Mistry told our correspondents in Operation Dhritarashtra.
सलमान खुर्शीद के किस आदमी ने भेजा था? उज़ैर खान ने। हाँ, उज़ैर।
तो वहाँ जाओ तुम्हें मशीन मिल जाएगी। फिर हम गए थे, 20 रुपए ले लिए और नाम लिख लिया, तो मशीन मिली।
Here's this person on open camera saying he received no hearing aid. However, at today's press conference, Mistry came out claiming that he'd received the implement 2 years ago and had made this statement in the hope of getting more such benefits. Listen to this.
If you want to ask his name, you want to take a shot. ये लोग कहते हैं, टीवी पे कहते हैं कि हमने आपको आला नहीं दिया था, ये कहते हैं। आप बोलिए। वो कहते हैं कि आला नहीं दिया था और हम सबूत लेके आए कि आला नहीं दिया था। आपको क्या बोलना है इसके सामने?
You know, he's saying he did get something, but Shazia, what credibility does this have given the fact that Khurshid is the Farrukhabad MP, this poor person's been dragged here, being brought and presented before the nation, and then you got so many people standing at the back prompting Range Mistri on what he must say, Shazia?
Exactly, and it's Mr. Khurshid talked about rented Viklang. So, you know, it's now whose word against whose, like who is rented and who's not, one has to look at that. But I have a bigger question. He said he's ready for an inquiry. Now, who will do that inquiry? The UP government, the economic offences wing of UP government, which is expecting a huge economic package from the centre and giving outside support to make this government last? Or the CBI, the prosecution wing of which is headed by the law minister? So it's a bit of a farce really. It's very easy now to say that I'm ready for an inquiry, but who will bell the cat? How do we ensure independent inquiry? Everybody seems to agree there should be an independent, non-partisan kind of an inquiry, but how do we ensure that? How does that happen?
Oh, absolutely. Given the fact that he occupies this position, given the fact that there are officers on record who say, Sanjay, that actually the funds that this trust get should actually be cancelled, but because the law minister is there, we are helpless, we can't act. That really throws up very serious questions about whether an independent probe can be conducted while Mr. Khurshid remains the law minister.
You know, Rahul, I think in today's press conference, what he did was the way any, I would say, self-respecting man who has complete confidence in his own ethics would do it. Number one, whatever documents, facts, figures, photographs that he had, he subscribed it in the public domain today. Number two, where he does not have the documents or where he does not control the outcome of the documents because they have not been directly, created by him, they have not been manufactured by him because other third party are responsible. He says, listen, in all transparency, he said, let this be investigated. There's nothing else he can do. There's nothing else anybody on earth can do. That's a fact. That is a bottom line that you cannot ignore. And to answer what Shazia Ilmi is saying about, this independent inquiry, how can we trust it? Well, let me tell you, the tragedy with some people in a democracy is they trust nothing. You don't trust the judiciary. If there is an impartial inquiry, Mr. Salman Khurshid at some part of the world, even though if he's in Timbuktu, he can always make a phone call and influence an outcome, right?
No, but why don't you answer this question, Sanjay? The most crucial question, there's a special secretary who retired in January. He signs a letter on the 24th of March 2011, which serves as the basis for the Zakir Hussain Trust getting funds for the next year. Now, what explains this? There is very clearly collusion at every level, and checks and balances which should be in place are not in place, raising the question, is it because of the people involved and the positions they hold?
I would raise 2 points here, Rahul. I completely agree with you that if there's any discrepancy that looks very blatant or flagrant, where there's a forgery involved, it must be investigated. And I think Mr. Salman Khurshid himself has reiterated it twice over, it will be. The second point that we need not ignore, that if we are saying at this point of time that there was a second tranche of allocations being made to the trust, surely Mr. Salman Khurshid, as a law minister, as a functioning parliamentarian for a long time, knows how the law functions. If we are saying at this point of time that he was totally unaware of it and he could have killed it, I think end of day, we are being very cynical of a system. The very fact that it's happened, the very fact that we're discussing something like this in the public domain means that things do work in the government, means that if there's something wrong, it does surface. Even if you're the law minister, you ask questions. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that per se. But Rahul, I want to raise one point here in today's discussion. You see, this whole concept of the media and government relationship, it's a classical adversarial relationship.
You've got it all wrong, Sanjay Jha, because of the law minister, because you're elected representative, because you hold an important office of power. That's why you should be asked questions. That's why.
Of a person with a political
and people like Salman Khurshid and what they do, make us become, add to our cynicism, make us question the system.
I don't want to take sides. It's becoming rather personal, but we want to stay dispassionate as we can, and say the following things. The pictures that were issued today by Mr. and Mrs. Khurshid were actually of a year subsequent to the year in question. Why they did this, I can't understand. It's not for 2009, 2010, for which the allegations are being made. It's for the next year, and of course, as an official in that district, he will be seen with Salman Khurshid at various fora. It doesn't change anything. To bring Range Mistry in, what credibility that has, I leave it to you, our viewers, to decide. You know, he's from Farooqabad. Mr. Khurshids brought him in. He was on open camera. You heard him. You're hearing what he's saying now. Whether or not that's adequate, again, you decide. But the critical questions, the special secretary who wrote a letter after having retired, this is clearly a forged letter because he retired in January. He's writing a letter in March which allows for the sanctioning of funds to the Zakir Hussain Trust. Is that or is that not done? Again, you decide. And also JB Singh, who's supposed to have, he promised us he'll join us on this broadcast, but says, मेरे को बहुत फोन आ रहे हैं, मुझे माफ कर दो, बाद में आपसे बात करूंगा. He didn't come on and give us his side of the story. But he's clearly very petrified because of the people who are involved. But the fact is, he's on camera saying he never signed any affidavit. You know, first he is supposed to have forged his signature. We go to Mr. Khurshid with that charge. We get a signed affidavit, which that officer, when confronted, and you heard it on headlines today, says, I never signed it. The facts are out in the public domain. We leave it to you, our viewers, to decide who's right, who's wrong, and let there be an independent probe, you know, conducted by somebody from outside the system. Because if the system from within tries to probe this, they will all clamp up and we'll never really know what the truth is.